That this Taoiseach's position is untenable, this government's position is absolutely hopeless, and we will be calling here today for Brian Cowan to fold up his tent, to go to the park, to suspend the budget introduced on the 7th of December, to set aside the IMF, EU and ECB deal and the 4-year plan, and to let the people decide as to how we will deal with the current crisis that this government has overseen, not only through Brian Cowan's term as Taoiseach, but that of his predecessor and Cowan's role as the previous Minister for Finance. Well, the Green Party's role is absolutely pathetic. There can be no question that there seems to be absolutely nothing at all in relation to the conduct of Cowan and their Fianna Fáil colleagues in the Cabinet that they can do that will give any rise to the Green Party's taking a courageous position or having their commitment to this coalition in any way weakened. They're there to get whatever they can out of whatever period of time that they can remain, and I would imagine that they're more likely to use the current situation as a bargaining tool in order to progress their interest in relation to a number of pieces of legislation, rather than actually face up to their social and political and democratic responsibility of bringing down this government and ending the people's suffering once and for all.
We just want to make a very quick point that while the political news has been dominated by the Taoiseach's golfing escapades, that this government is going to draw down the first tranche of this EU IMF loan, this dig-out that they very badly negotiated. And that's at a very, very punitive rate. And it'll be people like yourselves and other citizens and taxpayers are going to pay for this. I think all of the shenanigans recently show the very urgent need for a root and branch reform of the political and economic systems. And the start of all of that would be for this government to go.
Do you support renegotiations of that deal with the IMF?
Well, we actually think that Fine Gael and Labour are bluffing their way on this issue. What they're talking about as a negotiation would be no more than repositioning some of the more punitive aspects of that. What we're saying is that the sovereign debt, the deficit, which has to be reduced, needs to be disconnected from the private debt, that's the banking debt. We're in the crisis because the government gave a blanket guarantee and lumped citizens with the debt incurred by greedy bankers and others within their golden circle. We would separate it out. We would argue very strongly for a new budget, and for a budget which is based upon the pre-budget submission which we made, and we would send the EU and the IMF packing.
Would you default on it? Is that what separated out means, senior debt?
Well, certainly in terms of those bondholders who are gamblers and speculators and who, I mean, that's how capitalism works. They take the hit when there's a hit, and they take the profit when there is a profit, and no one would understand that better than the senior bondholders. Why should you pay, or your family pay, for billionaire or millionaire senior bondholders? Of course they should be left.
And won't that delay our ability to get back into the actual bond market?
What's delaying our ability to get in is that the bond market has no confidence in the government strategy or policy. And you'll only regain that confidence if you have a proper strategy and policy. And it's no wonder the bond markets have no confidence, given there is no stimulus, there's no incentive, there's no positive job creating element to what the government's doing. It's a simple matter of simply loading onto taxpayers and those, and this includes middle and income families, loading onto them the debts incurred by greedy bankers.
Jerry, the issue that will probably be raised by the other two main opposition leaders in Dáil today will be the issue of Brian Cowan's contacts with Sean Fitzpatrick. Do you think that's just a side issue then, or do you think that it is actually an integral part of this whole picture that you're painting that led us up to this day where we're taking a bailout from the IMF?
Well, whatever about the detail of what happened during this golfing outing, what it does illustrate is a very cosy relationship between the Fianna Fáil leadership and the bankers and the speculators and the developers, the sort of the Galway tent syndrome. So that's what that shows. But look, Caoimhin Ó Caoláin and our team have put down a motion of no confidence in this government. We're not content just to talk about it. Now, What Fine Gael should do and what Labour should do, if they're serious about having no confidence in this government, is to support that motion. They actually will have the slot on the Dáil schedule before us, so that's what they should do.
When you have your slot, and it's a motion no confidence in the Taoiseach, I believe, is it not, rather than
Well, that's the motion that we've tabled,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean that is something that obviously we're working out
Yeah.
with the wider technical group at this point in time in order to have the facilitation to properly table it. And we expect that will present. However, if Fine Gael or Labour do as they have claimed, and use their own time to give effect to their stated no confidence in Brian Cowan and this government, well then obviously that would take precedence. They're going to have the opportunities for weeks before we will have that chance. So we're calling on them, and I have written directly to Enda Kenny and to Eamon Gilmore some weeks before Christmas, providing them with the formula of words, offering our full support if either of them would take up this position. And make no mistake, that's the real test, because in the end of the day, Brian Cowan is the fault line in all of this in terms of the commentary of the backbenchers of his own party, recently articulated once again by another Cork backbench former government minister, outlining once again no confidence in Brian Cowan going forward and leading Fianna Fáil into the upcoming general election. So that's the real test, that's the litmus test. Fine Gael and Labour want to actually defeat this government and bring this government down, and to ensure that all of the measures that Jerry has spoken about do not come into play. Well then, let's table this motion in Brian Cowan. Let's test if these spokespersons from the Fianna Fáil backbenches, if the Green Party, who have themselves, claimed that there is deceit and betrayal on the part of Brian Cowan and Fianna Fáil in their own statement going back before Christmas. Let's test it now.